The month of April 2022 for EastEnders showed me just how bad the John Sen era of the show really was. The years that John Sen produced this show could be and should be called probably the worst era in EastEnders history, because now that he's gone, the show just magically was way better than it had been for a very long time. And yes, you can chalk up a lot of it being the aftermath of his stories, I guess, or a climax of his stories that some took forever. But nonetheless, I do feel like EastEnders is kind of getting back to a better place nonetheless and healing from the John Sen era. I'm going to talk about the main stories going on right now, and I got to start with Jean and Harvey. You know, Jean's bipolar disorder getting out of control because she's off of her meds. That's been a heavy story, but I think very well done and certainly well acted at times, maybe sometimes over the top. But I do think for the most part it was well acted. You know, with Stacy trying to get through to Harvey that this is not her mother, this is not how Jean usually acts, but this is the woman that Harvey fell for. And we're still getting touches of Harvey and his son Aaron, you know, Aaron being in prison for his dealings with the Nazis, but we also get a point where Aaron is attacked in prison and Jean never visits Harvey at the hospital with his son. Stacy does, and I think Stacy finally gets through to Harvey that Jean doesn't really know a whole lot of what's going on because of her disorder. And this had a really good climax where Jean is in her wedding dress because Jean and Harvey plan on getting married. And, you know, Jean starts going into the ocean, into deep waters, trying to find her, trying to go to Daniel, who died a couple years ago, who, it was a good tie-in to that story as well. So I do think this story was very well done. Probably the best story of EastEnders for the month of April 2022. But most stories I've been either intrigued by or at least liking. You know, like Sam Mitchell returned and she's brought some energy back to the show as well. And Phil, who's in prison, has Sam back to try and kind of deal with the family business. But the Mitchell name seems to be going through the mud with Phil in prison. And, you know, Kat and Sharon separately try and get involved in with Sam's return. And, you know, when Sam goes to meet with the gangster, they're there too. And they kind of cause this bit of chaos that kind of gets them all in trouble, because they're supposed to get money from that guy, but because he sees how kind of unorganized they are and Phil's in prison, and he kind of just threatens them that they're going to have to start paying him. So Sam went to Jack because they have a kid together, and she kind of threatens custody, or if Jack doesn't help her kind of deal with this gangster dude. And so Jack has to go through with that. But, you know, later in the month, we also see Sam moving in with Jack and Denise, so we'll see what comes of that. But I do think Sam's return is also bringing a good energy to EastEnders. You know, we have the heavy, sad story with Stuart and his cancer. He had the surgery, but he still will need chemo. He's been going through it. He can't connect with the kid that Bernie gave to him and Rainey. So that's another story. I think they're doing a good job with it. It's heavy. I don't always like watching cancer stories, but it is well done so far. With John Sam being on, we've also had Linda's return. You know, she's still a drunkard. She still has her alcohol problems. And Mick has, of course, getting close to Janine. That's a coupling. You know, Janine's also was brought back to the show pretty recently, although it was still under John Sen. So they're still working around this Janine and Mick coupling, I guess, but Linda is back, and she's also back behind the bar. I think that is a good rivalry being built up between Janine and Linda with Mick there, but we'll see what actually comes of that. We then have the story of Ben, who's been beating up homophobes, you know, since he is gay, and He's kind of has some genes from his father, Phil, I guess here. But one of them was almost at the brink of death, so that was one of the other stories here. That, Ben could be in trouble if the man he beat ends up dying. And there's other little stories as well, like Chelsea and Whitney, they're kind of going through some money problems, that Chelsea doesn't want to stay at home anymore because of all the past there. But I do think overall that's how I would sum up EastEnders, that it is healing from the John Sen era. Kate Oates is the one taking over right now. It's going through a period where there's no executive producer until the new Crenshaw, or whatever his name is, takes over, and I have no idea when that actually will happen. But EastEnders is in third place for now. Again, it was in third place again last month, since John Sen has left. So, I like EastEnders right now. I think the stories, some are heavy, but they've all been well done over the last 2 months, for sure.